Today on the show, Quentin Tarantino admits he knew what Harvey Weinstein was up to, but did nothing. A controversial theme park is laying off hundreds of workers, and we're joined by two rock drumming greats, one of whom has caused me grievous bodily harm.
It's been 25 years. You're still complaining about that?
Statute of limitations isn't out yet.
Welcome to the future, where the glass is half full and you'll need new glasses, where you'll be jumping from conclusions.
The past is annulled, and a new future is born.
Never before in history has so much meant so little to so many. AD on the radio.
So, I think everybody's been through it in one way or another. Especially when you're a kid. There's these folks that you see. They're kind of off in the distance. And there's something about them. They've got a little bit of an edge to them. They've got a little bit of mystery to them. They've got something that makes them seem a lot more interesting than you do. And, well, like I said, we all had our version of that. Usually sometime in middle school or high school or something like that. I remember, I can't use this kid's real name. He might be listening. But I remember there was this one group of guys that used to hang out, smoke cigarettes after school. They were a little older. They seemed to know things that I didn't. There was something about them. There was something different about them. Boy, did the girls in my grade have a thing for them. They're always talking about it, pointing them out, talking about how they'd done their hair, which sneakers they were wearing, how their jeans were ripped just so. And I remember I rode the school bus with a couple of them. And you just kind of try and hang over the back of the seat and talk to them. Or at least earwig on their conversation, see what it is they're talking about, what makes them different, what makes them interesting, what makes them so freaking cool. And I got to know them a little bit. Got to know this group of kids. We bonded over music. I had this one really cool bus driver. He would let us sort of bring a tape in and put it on. And we'd listen to it on the way home. And I remember carefully selecting just the right music that might score me some cool points with these older, cooler kids.
Where's the Wi-Fi thing?
The first Police album, that did the trick. Never forget putting that on and hearing him go, oh, that's awesome. And we go, oh, yeah, I just brought this from home. Just a band I like. You like the Police? Oh, yeah. And so somehow I managed to weasel my way into this sort of tight-knit circle of older, cooler kids that had the edge, that had the girls talking about them, that just had that thing that I didn't know, I didn't understand, but I wanted to have. I didn't get the sense that they were the nicest guys in the world the more I got to know them. And it was weird. I started to feel a little like I was compromising myself somehow. But, in the 8th grade, you don't really understand the idea of compromise, do you? But I would come to understand it. When eventually they were like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing lunch period tomorrow? Why don't you come hang out? We're going to be by the lockers near the art room. And that was it. I'd cracked it. I was in. This kid with no social skills who spent most of his life buried in a book. I'd been invited to hang out with these guys that definitely had something I did not. So I hang out with them at the lockers. Or at least I go to. Never forget walking up, seeing them on the floor, drinking a bottle of wine, without a care in the world. Something they'd swipe from one of their parents' cabinets. And I thought, wow, that's pretty brazen. The teacher could walk by at any time. And then one of them had this bag. One of them had this little plastic Ziploc bag. For all I know, he brought his sandwich in it. but I saw him dump out the contents of a bottle of Tipp-Ex thinner. Remember that pre-digital when you had to write things down and take notes before you were typing out all of your everything? Use this stuff, Tipp-Ex whiteout, to correct your mistakes. But that stuff would gloop up, so then you had to get a little secondary bottle of Tipp-Ex thinner so you could get more out of it. I saw him dump the contents of this bottle of Tipp-Ex thinner into a bag, put it over his mouth and nose, and breathe in and out. They offered me the bag. And something my mom had said to me a couple years earlier came rushing back to me.
Where the left and right come together for fundamental truths. AD on the radio, on Twitter at ADSXE.
Every day you're going and working, running that rat race, that pace and that place will leave a bad taste.
So after months of working my way up the social ladder, getting myself to a point where I'd been invited by these kids, these cool kids, for want of a better expression, to hang out with them at lunchtime. There I was by the lockers. I saw one of them dump the contents of a bottle of Tipp-Ex thinner into a polythene bag and put it over his mouth and nose and breathe in and out, while the other one drank a bottle of wine. They offered me the bag. They offered me the bottle. And it's funny. I remember. Now, look, my parents were in no way, shape, or form anything that could be confused with straight-laced. My parents were all about the 60s and all about being hippies and all about the 70s and all about all the things that went hand in hand with it. And I think they decided at an early age that they were going to be honest and open about those things. So I didn't grow up thinking that it was the absolute end of the world to mess with your perception through substances. I was discouraged from doing it. But there was one thing that my mom had told me once. She was like, if anyone ever tries to get you to sniff glue, or if anyone ever tries to get you to huff anything, you say, no thanks. It'll give you a headache, it'll make you feel miserable, and it might kill you. And I didn't think this was an eventuality of something that was actually going to happen. I didn't think I was going to be invited to huff anything. I didn't have a mohawk, and this wasn't the 70s. Kids in my school smoked pot, and that was pretty much it. But there I was, being offered a chance to bond with these kids. I knew I wanted to be cool. I knew I wanted to have this edge that they had. I knew I wanted to be interesting, have whatever air these guys had about them that made them so fascinating to me and to the other people around them. But I knew instantly that what they were doing was not for me. I knew that by not taking a drink off of whatever disgusting screw top wine that smelled like vinegar they were trying to hand off to me, and by not putting that bag to my face, I was closing the door on acceptance from them. And just like that, I knew I wasn't going to be them. I knew I wasn't going to be that cool kid. I wasn't going to be that popular kid, that man of mystery that the girls wanted to know more about and the guys wanted to be like. It was tough. But at the same time, very easy to walk away and say, no, thanks. And I kind of took stock of what had happened, gone, oh, man, you know, I spent a while getting to know these guys because I wanted to figure out what they were all about. Seems like sort of a waste of my time and my energy. But then, a little while after, I started to feel that maybe I did get something done. Whatever way they were going through life wasn't the way I wanted to go through life. I wanted something of what they had. I wanted to experience a life that was kind of different and interesting. But I knew that I was going to be making my own way. I knew that I was going to get to be the kind of person I wanted to be, but I was going to do it somehow on my own terms. And I'll never forget it because I think that was the last time I ever felt any kind of peer pressure. And looking back, I feel really fortunate that that's the case. To get rid of that kind of baggage when you're in the 8th grade, oh, that's pretty cool. And I lucked out. And it was interesting. I hadn't thought about these guys. There's one guy specifically who, like I said, I can't name by name. But a while ago, I was talking to this girl that I knew from school. Well, she's a woman now. But she was like, oh, yeah, I went to prom with that kid. And I was like, no kidding. Whatever happened to him? What did he do with his life? I used to think he was so cool. She's like, it did not go well. And she sent me a link to this guy's Facebook page. And best I could tell, he was living in and out of halfway houses. On his Facebook page, kept seeing posts from his young daughter, who was writing him these achingly sad messages, looking for some kind of feedback or attention or love that just wasn't coming. And in that moment, I remember feeling a small pang of regret and of guilt. I thought maybe it wasn't enough for my 13-year-old self to have walked away from the situation. Maybe I should have done something. I should have intervened. I said, hey, that's maybe not something you want to be doing to yourself. And who knows? But like I said, years later, there's a bit of a moment of reassurance that I'd done the right thing, but also some guilt that maybe it wasn't enough. And it's interesting. In the end, it reminds me very much of what's absolutely overtaken the world of media over the last week or so. In the end, we're going to learn that a lot of folks were complicit in Harvey Weinstein's harassment and assaults because they remained silent.
Don't get the blues, get all the news. We mean all of you guys out there in Radio Land. All aboard!
He's back. AD on the radio.
Give it up, yeah. Give it up, yeah. Bring this on, come on, come on.
So I suppose all these stories of what's been happening for the last, 20, 30, however many years it's been with this Harvey Weinstein guy, reminded me a lot of dealing with the shackles of peer pressure when you're a kid. And like we were talking about before, I managed to cast those off when I was in the 8th grade and refused to huff glue with some kids that I wanted to be like. Wanted to be liked by them, wanted to be cool, wanted to be part of whatever little clique they were rolling with. And realized I never would be because, well, I turned down an opportunity to get blitzed with them at lunchtime. And it was tough. It was a tough decision to make. I mean, I knew I wasn't about to, like I said, huff Tipex thinner, but still, I remember thinking I'll never be one of them as I declined. And a little later on, I felt freed. I felt like I'd chosen my own path. And it was the last time I was ever really bothered by the idea of peer pressure. And we've seen over the last couple of months how much adults aren't necessarily free from that particular affliction of weakness. Quentin Tarantino now admits that he knew what Weinstein was up to but did nothing. He said he's known for decades about Weinstein's misconduct toward women and now feels ashamed he didn't take a stronger stand and stop working with him. He said, I knew enough to do more than I did. There was more to it than just the normal rumors, the normal gossip. It wasn't secondhand. I knew he did a couple of these things. Of course, he didn't say anything because he was making movies like Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill, Inglourious Bastards, and Weinstein was tied to all of that. He was the money man. Tarantino says his ex-girlfriend Mira Sorvino told him about these crazy unwelcome advances and unwanted touching by Weinstein, and he said everyone who was close to Harvey had heard of at least one of these incidents. And basically what Tarantino just did was he just indicted Hollywood. And you know what? That freedom that I lucked out. I'm not saying I'm a person of great weight, strength of character, and conviction and all that. I just lucked out that doing the right thing, doing what was right for me, was something I was able to do at an early age. But I really hope that this is the dawning of the age of a new attitude, something. Not only in Hollywood, but also throughout the rest of society. I hope that this signals the beginning of a time where keeping quiet, going along to get along, or making your way in the world becomes something different. I hope that that starts to be perceived as something shameful. I hope it starts to be perceived as an act of cowardice and weakness to see something wrong and not stand up for it. Not stand up for what's right because of your own self-interest. Because that's exactly what it is. An act of weakness, an act of shame, and an act of cowardice. All right, Funkhauser. We've got some guests in the studio today. Super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhauser, is hanging out in Las Vegas with who?
Us? How are you, man? It's the lovely and talented Phil Verone. How are you?
I'm better now.
I was mesmerized by the beautiful eyes of Barry.
As we often are.
He stole my heart as he played some Saigon Kick intro music. I got lost in the drumming.
We have been joined by Phil Verone, drummer of Saigon Kick fame, also did some time with Skid Row, but you're sort of like a Generation XY Renaissance dude. You've done it all. You've done acting, you've done reality television, you're a very accomplished drummer, you've been around the world, rocked millions upon millions of people, and now you're here, and we thank you for that.
Yes, and I apparently hit you with a drumstick.
Yes.
So that's actually...
Okay, yeah. So we were talking a little bit off the air. I was in England, wee strip of a lad, not right around the time I was going through that situation with those kids at school. I was also learning that I love going to rock concerts. I went to my first one ever, and then anytime I could go to any show ever, anytime anyone could get tickets, anytime I could go to anything, I would be there. And I remember seeing a band called Saigon Kick, and Saigon Kick were opening up for a band called Extreme in a little teeny club in London called the Marquee Club. And this was definitely you, right?
Absolutely. I love that place. That was actually a very cool place.
It was I saw a lot of bands there, and I remember your band for a couple of different reasons. One, you kicked ass. Two, if you were the drummer in Saigon Kick in 1992 at the Marquee Club in London, then you hit me in the face with your drumsticks.
That would be me. The statute of limitations is over, right? I can't get sued for this?
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a horribly bad situation, but what it was is one of the great things about going to concerts when you're young, especially in England, where stage diving is actively encouraged, crowd surfing is actively encouraged. If you're like a wee strip of a lad, you immediately get hoisted up onto people's shoulders, and you spend the entire time crawling around on top of the crowd, and it's just great. And Saigon Kick are doing their thing, kicking ass and taking names on stage in this little club, and the lights go down, and it was a climactic moment in your show. I don't know if it was the end of the show, but I'm on somebody's shoulders, rocking out, having a great time. The lights go down, and whack, I get hit in the face by something, and I don't know what it was.
Wow.
The lights go back on, and there's this girl standing right beneath me going, oh, my word, I've caught a drumstick. This is freaking fantastic, this is. And I'm like, oh, man. And as a kid that grew up playing the drums, I was mad for two different reasons. One, she got the drumstick, not me.
Yeah.
Two, I got pasted in the face by your drum kit when I was 12 years old. Thank you.
How old were you?
It's like 12 years old, 92,
kidding.
right? Yeah,
wow, yeah. So now I just feel old too. On top of it, wow. Yeah, well, that's very true. We were out. That was 90. 91, 92. We were out with Extreme. They had just, their single More Than Words went number one in America, and while we were touring Europe. So we ended up doing, I don't know how long over there, maybe a couple of months there, and then we came back to the States and we did like 3 months. So yeah, we played, that was definitely me, and we were touring on, I believe it was the first record, if I'm not mistaken. It was our first record, because then we had a hit on the Lizard record, and that came out late 92, I believe. So yeah, this is like 91 area. So yeah, that was definitely me.
Well, I mean, getting hit in the face with a drumstick is not an overly pleasant experience, but you always absolutely forgiven, because I also had the formative experience afterwards of talking to the girl that caught the drumstick. Yeah. And I'll never forget, because we wind up making out. And I was just like, this is amazing. I'm at a rock concert. I meet a girl and we're making out. And then
how old was she?
Well, that's the thing. The cool part was she was like, we've got to stop. I'm only 15. I was like, I'm only 12. This rules. I am the man.
Wow, so you lucked out. That's
in a manner of speaking. There were a lot of highs and lows to that particular night, and thank you for all of that.
So how did you guys date afterwards?
No.
Okay.
See, like that was like, to go to that show, that meant getting on the Tube, the English version of the subway, going to the Marquee Club, like venturing out into London, which, like, bearing in mind that this was pre everybody having a cell phone, and I to this day I don't know how my parents allowed it.
The good old
they're
days.
just like. Yeah, I guess it was because my mom took me to a David Bowie concert when I was like 2 years old. So, and like I said, they weren't, my parents were into experiencing life, and I think theirs was a hands-off attitude toward parenting of like, let the kid learn to swim. He'll figure it out on his own. But like, if I think now of all the things that I was getting into at age 12 at concerts and things of that nature, there's absolutely no way in hell that I would. And my parents were probably pretty cool with it. But yeah, no, you were responsible for some formative experiences in my young life.
So what was your first concert? If you were you're 12 years old, because I didn't go to a concert till later in life. My first concert was Kiss in 1980. 81, I think. So I was like 13. Well, I guess I was. I was like 14.
That's right around the age where you start doing that. My very first concert was seeing another band that you played with. I saw Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood tour, and this was probably like maybe a month or two, or like I don't know. It was right around that time.
Yeah. That record came out in 90. Dr. Feelgood. Then we signed. Yeah. So it was all between 90 and 92. Was this all this time frame? I don't know the exact dates. We probably can look them up. Actually, that's kind of funny. Look at the old Extreme days. But yeah, it was just around that time, and I was young too. I think I was 24 or 25 or something like that. I was a youngin' myself. Now I'm just an old decrepit man that aches every day.
Do you play drums often still? Like, is that still a thing for you?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm playing with Jake E. Lee now, who
oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we have a band. He has a band, I should say, and I joined it. But Red Dragon Cartel is the name of the band, and we just finished a brand new record. So we'll be out hitting the road in January, February 2018, and that's a world tour. So we're going to do it again. I haven't been on the road since 2004, so this will actually be kind of fun to get out there 14 years later, 14 years older, 14 years old, more creaky bones, all that fun stuff. But actually, I've been playing, obviously, with them, and believe it or not, I'm playing the best I have in a long time. I think that, being sober helps. That definitely does. And I just turned 50 last weekend, so I mean, it's kind of this new mindset of being healthy, enjoying the tour now without being loaded and stupid stuff. I mean, that's most of my touring I forgot about because of booze and drugs and all that stuff. So I'm going to try to experience this one, the right way and be a musician this time and not a rock star.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like for drummers, there's a lot of wear and tear that happens to a drummer that doesn't happen to a normal human being that does something else for a living.
Yeah, you should see Troy next to me. Oof. Talk about wear and tear. This poor bastard.
Troy, who might we have seen you play with?
What's happening, AD? How you doing, man?
I'm good.
I did a stint with White Lion back in 2005 to 2009, and did...
This is amazing! White Lion were the first band opening up for Skid Row and Motley Crue at my first ever show. You guys have completed my musical history. This is amazing.
It's a small world after all. Everybody sing along. And, I played with Gilby Clarke, and I'm out currently with the band Tantric.
So were you with Tantric back in the day as well?
No, not back in the day. Not back in. I'm sort of one of those hired gun kind of mercenary blue collar drummers.
He has more gigs than all of us, though. It's like it's kind of like any band that goes out. It's like, oh yeah, Troy's playing with him. Okay, that's great. Well, I'm going to go after that. Oh, Troy's got it.
I mean, if you've seen the paycheck, you have to do multiple gigs to make it make sense.
No, trust me, I'm not. But Troy's like the guy. So that only shows you that he's a great drummer. Because
right. That's
work, man. Yeah.
The life of a working musician is an interesting one, to be sure. And do you ever wind up accepting a gig like, okay, I'll tour with White Lion. Oh no, I just turned down Guns N' Roses. Like, can't do Guns N' Roses because I've got like 20 dates with White Lion. Have you ever, like, if you have to pick and choose your gigs, is it kind of sort of like, oh wow, I did a wrong in there, and I committed myself to a month on the road when I could have been doing something completely different? Do you ever wind up in that situation? You don't have to name names of bands, but I'm just curious.
Of course that happens. It's, in this business, when you're doing it the way I'm doing it, it's feast or famine. So, you'll go with a whole stretch with no gigs, and then you'll get offered 7 gigs, and they all fall in the same 3 weeks, But I've never had the opportunity to have, an A-list band versus a D-list band. That hasn't really happened. So, it's... That's not quite happened. I've been fortunate enough to be able to juggle a schedule that works, and I can keep my calendar kind of full. But yeah, every once in a while, you get 2 gigs that happen at the same time. You just got to make a choice. And I'm typically known for once you commit, then you commit to the one and you see it through.
I just want to say thanks for calling me for those other gigs that you couldn't do. I appreciate that, rat bastard. Man,
it's very good to know you're principled enough to dance with a wong that brung you.
On his defense, I have to say. There was some Gilby Clarke dates that you tried to get for me. So I do appreciate that.
That is very true.
I think Gilby just hated me.
I feel like we're getting incredible insight into the lives of the working musician. Phil and Troy, thank you so much for hanging out.
Sometimes you just know you're done. You're longing for that shining sun. You walk these streets most every day. You're waiting to get washed away.
Now, more AD on the radio.
So we are fortunate enough to be joined in the studio today by Phil Barone, drummer of... All right, let's see if I can count up all the bands properly. You are currently out with...
Red Dragon Cartel with Jakey Lee.
Yep. With Jakey Lee.
Guitar God. And
Guitar God
nice
of
guy.
Badlands and Ozzy fame.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And you spent some time in Skid Row, and you spent some time in Saigon Kick as well back in the day.
I did, and Prunella Scales, and I did a little run with Vince Neil. That was fun, and I think that's about it. Yeah, not too bad.
We're also here joined by Troy from Tantric as well, and you've done stints with who else? White Lion and
White Lion, Gilby Clarke. I played with Janie Lane.
What was the other band you were in.
The Raskins?
The Raskins. They were pretty cool.
Yeah, the Raskins. They're suing Motley Crue for $30 million. Yeah, I was out with those guys for 6
Why are they suing Motley Crue for $30 million?
Well,
that's an interesting story.
I don't quite know other than what I've read, which anybody can read, but, the biggest complaint was going on going on before doors were announced. So going on at 6:40 when the ticket said doors are at 7. And then the other thing is at the last date, some of the production and crew members had water bottles, and apparently they were full of urine. And so that's part of the lawsuit.
Ooh.
And there were 5 guys on stage, and 3 of them did not get squirted with water or alleged urine. I was one of the 3 that didn't get it. There was only 2 guys that got it, and that would be the Raskin twins. And I'm not sure why that happened.
Ooh.
Perhaps they earned it. I don't know.
Well, the way touring goes is whoever opening, and Extreme did this to us, or most bands do. The last night of the tour, you're a sitting duck. The opening band.
Get hazed.
Yeah, you get hazed, and it could be as extreme as that with urine. For us, it's like shave cream. They'll shut the lights off on you, whatever. But we also do it to them. On Extreme, I ran on a stage naked and danced with Gary Sharon. He almost died. And the tour manager, before it was in Miami the last night. My parents, everybody was there. And the tour manager gave strict instructions to the crew: do not let any of Saigon Kick on a stage. And of course, being who I am, I snuck around and during this dance, I just ran out there naked with Gary, and he was horrified, to say the least. The fans went crazy, but it was a good time. They were good sports, but yeah, but the urine thing's that's extreme.
It's extreme.
But, yeah, I mean, if you had to put a price tag on it, I guess it's $30 million. Like getting somebody else's human waste squirted on you as part of an end of
probably
tour. Right.
He doesn't realize he has.
Now,
we're
recognizing that we're on broadcast radio, not in podcast land.
No, I know.
Carefully, and when I say carefully, I do mean carefully, describe the circumstances under which the drummer of Motley Crue relieved himself.
No.
In your general direction.
I'm teasing, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I think we used to date the same girl, so that's as close as I came to Tommy's. I would say. I mean, clothed. I've been close to him, clothed. But I'm saying,
Whoa. Funkhauser's taking notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Funkhauser, let's do some news.
This is My Witness News. In no way, shape, or form fair, and certainly not balanced. And now, super producer to the stars, Barry Funkhauser.
Well, yeah. Did you hear SeaWorld is laying off 350 workers due to declining attendance?
I think the whole SeaWorld thing is about to be a thing of the past. And, you ever been?
Me? No. I still want to go, though.
There's, it is
not
amazing.
For Shamu, though. I feel bad for Shamu.
Well, it's amazing seeing a killer whale up that close, and one of the things that you feel is this is entirely too small of a space for an animal like this to be in. But it's a really strange barrel that the SeaWorld types find themselves over, because when SeaWorld first started back in the day, the primary use of killer whales was the only real interaction that we as a species had with killer whales was the military used to use them for target practice. We've evolved somewhat as a species ever since SeaWorld started taking these orcas and putting them in captivity, which at the time was a significantly more humanitarian thing to be doing with killer whales than, like I said, using them for target practice the way the military was. But you go there and you're just like, that's an awfully small space for such a large creature. And I guess they've decided that they're no longer going to have the orcas there. And, man, one of the stations that I'm on in San Diego, very close to SeaWorld, and when when the Blackfish movie happened, when that happened, they immediately did damage control and invited us all out to see exactly what it is they do and answer any questions. And they were very forthright, and they were very much in the mode, like I said, of doing damage control. And they did have one thing. They did have one thing there that was not open to the public that we got to see that I really kind of wish everybody knew a little bit more about.
There's something happening here, and you should know what it is. The Dumbing Up of America. Now, more AD on the radio.
So as Funkhauser brought up SeaWorld, laying off 350 workers due to declining attendance. Have you guys ever been to SeaWorld, Phil, Troy?
No. I don't know, something weird about that. Because I'm kind of like with you. It's like there's big animals in small spaces, and they just look miserable. Kind of like the zoo over at the Playboy Mansion. You know, like I remember being there.
Actually, no, I don't know. I've never having been to the Playboy Mansion, not being a rock star myself.
Oh, well,
I never made my way to the Playboy Mansion Zoo. Please tell us. Well, for those that will never know.
Well, when I was over at the Playboy Mansion, I just remember, as a kid, I wanted to go to the Playboy Mansion so bad. And, that's what every boy wants to do. And then when I got there, I was so heinously disappointed. But one of the things that really stuck out is I kind of walked the ground, and it had this zoo on the grounds. And every animal looked like, if you've ever watched a FBI show when they find an abducted kid after like 3 years and the kid is scared and has that look in his eyes like he doesn't know if it's like friendly or not, that's what every animal looked like. So I don't know what was going on over there, but I was very much disturbed by it, by the stains on the grotto, and by Tara Reid. So that was pretty much it. Yes,
Tara Reid getting some shrapnel.
Yeah. So it was a weird experience. So back to your question. No, I've never been to the That was we're going to circle back to the SeaWorld, but yeah, that was a long way to go for that to make a point.
Well, no, I mean, it's just, if someone's actually had anticlimactic, though it may have been, experience of the Playboy Mansion, I feel it's my duty to educate the world as to the nature of what that was actually like.
Yeah.
So never having been myself,
it for the kids. I'm a giver.
Right. Good.
So,
SeaWorld's an interesting place just because, like I said, when SeaWorld first started out back in the day, we were a much less enlightened society, and the main interaction that we had with killer whales was the military would use them for target practice. So you take being gunned down by the Navy and equate that with a small living space that is SeaWorld. Well, living in a pool, small though it may have been, seems better than being shot at for fun.
Yeah.
And
I'll give you that.
Now, oh yeah, no, but I 100%, like, we had to go to SeaWorld because there was all this controversy that erupted over SeaWorld through the movie Blackfish and actually various members of Motley Crue. And there was this massive PR sort of like campaign to sort of like, look, before you make up your mind, why don't you come and see exactly what it is we do? And they invited us there to ask all the hard questions. And during that time, I think it was right before they decided they wouldn't have orcas in captivity anymore. But the one thing that you do see that wasn't open to the public was the rescue work that they do. They had basically like a fully functioning animal hospital that not a lot of folks get to see. And it's almost like the money that they were making off of sort of these really unusual conditions for orcas was being funneled into something that is incredibly worthwhile. And it was like, I think about like when last time my dog got sick, like I think my dog spent about a week at the hospital, and it cost me something outlandish. Like I maxed out 2 credit cards paying for it. It was tens of thousands of dollars, and they've got probably about sort of like 50 different animals that they are nursing back to life there at any one time. And the work they do there in that respect was truly something special. And the weird part of it is it seems to be paid for by keeping killer whales in this unusual situation. But it seems like the whole thing might be coming to an end anyway. They're not going to have the orcas anymore. They're laying off all those workers. And, well, I hate to see anybody lose their job, but former SeaWorld employees will be able to put one very powerful thing on their resume, and that is that they work well with otters. All right, Funkhauser, what else?
Yes, pole dancing could be on track to become an Olympic sport.
Wow.
Well, do you remember back in the day when beach volleyball first became part of the Olympics?
No, I don't remember the exact date, but I wish I did.
You may or may not recall, but at the time, some sort of like older, crustier, more uptight sports broadcasters and sports fans were like, this is absolutely ridiculous. I was living in England at the time, and I remember this one very famous sort of like English sportscaster who was like, now then, going down to the pub has not yet become an Olympic sport, but beach volleyball has. This is how it works, Philistines. And it was like people were way against it, and now it's this accepted thing. But I think pole, like what is pole dancing other than the horizontal bars vertically, right?
I don't know. We can go around the room and ask if you want to.
This, I'm a big fan of the volleyball.
I
think it's fantastic to watch. People are in shape. You know, they look great. I like the girls are
usually you can't tell if they speak English or not. Like they look like they might, but you're not sure.
We don't need that. In shape women. You know, I like that. I like that very much. So I'm for the volleyball. I wasn't a pole dancer fan at all. I'm not a guy that goes to strip clubs. However, I do find it pretty.
But what if it was an Olympic sport?
Yeah. I mean, I respect that. Getting on a pole, it looks hard. I'm out of shape, man. I'm old. I'm not getting on a pole. However, I'm not going to watch it, but I respect the effort. I like the zeal of it, if you will.
The zeal. Yeah. I mean, you know, if ribbon twirling can be an Olympic sport, I like I said, what is it? Yeah. You know those gymnastic floor routines that involve ribbons. Yeah.
That's more gymnastic-y, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, pole dancing is really the horizontal bars vertically. I think it's good. I think it's exciting. If only because Funkhauser gives me a chance to root for your mama to bring home the gold.
Oh, I see what you did there. Okay, fine. I'll let it slide.
It was a lot of work for not very much payoff.
That
but
was
it's true.
That was
fine.
a lot of work.
No, it's
I
fine.
thought you were going to say watching him on the pole. See,
no, I know my mom's listening, and she rolled her eyes. It's fine. We can move on.
Your mom listens to the show now. I feel really bad.
Hi, Mom.
Okay, can we get you on the pole is what I'm trying to
do. No.
Someone get some Windex.
Robert England says he's too old to play Freddy Krueger anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess they're sort of rebooting. Yeah.
So didn't he look old the whole time?
That's the point. He actually looks old in that costume. But I thought like the Jason movies were a little weird. It's like Friday 13th, 57, you know, and it's like Jason in the walker. The machete's a little duller, you know, like the stuff he's tight because he's a little heavier. It makes no sense. I don't know. I can get away from him at that is what I'm trying to say.
I wonder. Didn't they do a Freddy Jason crossover movie like a Freddy Krueger? I'm pretty sure that they did. Yeah.
It was Jason versus, right?
Jason versus Freddy. Yeah.
Recently?
Yeah.
So that was like the horror version of Superman versus Batman?
Yeah,
for
I guess
the nerds?
So. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. But I like Friday the 13th 1 scared the hell out of me. You know, like I wouldn't go in front of windows for like 2 years. I was little. And I was no way I was getting away from that Jason. But Jason, like, part 52, I can get him. I know I can get him. No problem. He doesn't scare me anymore.
Figured him out.
Yeah, I'm just like, you know, all right, enough with the mask. Put the machete down. Grab a steak. Cut something. I don't know. I'm over it. So I don't know where this even started. Freddie. Oh, the
yeah, he's
the
too
burn
old to
guy.
play.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. But the thing is, you walk around looking like a corpse. I mean, I think it's sort of like the secret to Rob Zombie's career. It's just like everybody else is sort of like getting nipped and tucked and doing sit-ups and trying to look like they still did in 1987 or whenever it was. And he was like, I've looked like a corpse the whole time. I just go on stage looking dead. And that's
and once he takes the paint off, you're like, wow, he looks good. He cleans up well. You know, I mean, it's a win-win. Yeah. He doesn't look ragged like Troy. You know, Troy's guy. This you don't understand.
Oh! Shots fired.
I kid Troy because he has better hair than me, so he just annoys me. True. Yeah.
So we're off Tara Reid and on to me now, right?
Yeah. Well, he gets all the gigs and he's got the hair. I mean, I have to hate him just by it's natural. I say that with love, of course. We've been friends for many years. So
right. Good.
I think all drummers are friends, though.
In some way, I think so, right?
Yeah, but we all look at each other with that one squinted eye where, like, hey, buddy, you know, like you shake hands and then you just kind of watch the other hand, make sure a knife doesn't come in the back, you know.
Yeah. And you're like, I could shake in better time than him. You know, that kind of stuff. So I think drummers are better than guitar players, don't you think? I think the drummers are more of a family than guitar players. Guitar players can be a little bitchy.
Well, the rhythm section it's a group effort where guitar players and singers, they're off on their own kind of thing because without them, nobody else is anybody else. So they have that.
Yeah, but it's really
all about them.
It's really us holding the whole band together because the guitar is just a bunch of noise at a time on top of a great rhythm section. Except for my band, who Jake is perfect and does nothing wrong. I'm just talking about other guitar players, not my boss.
There is so much backtracking that you have to do here.
Yeah, I got to keep it gig, because Troy
let's just
gets
get back
all.
to the show.
Well, no, it's interesting. I've always thought that there was a certain amount of camaraderie between drummers, and I think it comes from the fact that you schlep your gear around for the first chunk of your career, and maybe a portion thereafter, and then drummers love to talk. They love to talk about the tension of drum heads. They love to talk about what little bits and pieces they've got on their drum kit today, and they also love to loan each other things like drum stools and drum pedals and things of that nature. So I always felt that drummers looked out for each other.
I think you're right on that. You're right.
You know who you got to watch out with? This is my theory. I think you got to watch out for bass players. I think that you have to watch out for bass players.
Yeah.
Because bass players fall into one of two categories. One, you have the true bass player. You have your Robert Trujillo of Metallica, Suicidal Tendencies, that guy who really loves the bass and is dedicated to being the very best bass player he can possibly be, worships at the altar of Jaco Pastorius, and really takes the bass very seriously as a standalone instrument, and that's his life. The other bass player is like, it's only got 4 strings, not 6. It seems easier, and I just want to be in a band. And so they have this really half-assed approach to music, which means their mind turns to other things, which means they're the ones that it's always writing people about. The logo isn't good enough. We're not selling enough merch. You shut up. You're singing too loud. Your breath stinks. Don't talk to the fans that way. That, like, bass players, the true bass players are the nicest guys on the face of the planet. The ones that have just gotten into it because it seems like an easy way to be a rock star, those are the guys you got to watch out for.
Some of them write all the songs, though. That's the problem.
Right.
So you got to play their stuff and shut up. Right?
That's pretty rare, you know. You know, there's that shirt that says, you know, I met this guy and fell in love with him and then found out he was a bass player. So they get a lot of slag from the ladies.
I think the girls like the drummers because we just, beat up stuff on, it's like the rhythm of it. It's very animalistic. And
God, do we look good, Phil.
Yeah, we look great. And sadly, I got no rhythm in the sack. So I don't know. I'd rather play drums with rhythm than have it in the sack anyways. So
I think to have a great band, you need 2 things. You need a great drummer and you need a great front person. The other people can kind of slack off or have a style or be loose or not necessarily remember to plug their instrument in. But if the drummer sucks and the front person sucks, the whole band sucks.
Well, the
Everybody
drummer
else
for
can kind of get away with half-assing it.
The drummer you hear immediately. A bad drummer is the first thing you'll hear. The bad vocals is next. But if the drummer can't keep the band together, that the train wreck already starts. No one thinks a singer's going to be good anyways. So they get away with it. Oh, my gosh.
We're all out of time. It just flew by today. Phil and Troy, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we'll do this sometime again in the not-too-distant future.
Absolutely.
Thank you.